Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Improving's virtual Lunch and Learn. Before we get started, I wanted to inform you about a feature in the presentation that'll make the session more interactive. There's a question mark icon in the upper right of your screen. By clicking that icon, it will open up the question and answer feature, which will allow you to post your questions. I will then read those off to our presenter at the appropriate time. We're excited today to have Harold Pulcher, Senior Consultant at Improving, who will be sharing with us C# in the browser FTW. I'm assuming, Harold, that is for the win?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go ahead and take it away for us.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to start that. And now here we go. So before I get started, I'll be using PowerPoint Live today for my presentation. If you will use either the QR code or the link, and that link will be available at the top of every screen that I have. What this will get you the ability to look at my presentation on your own device. And anything that I've shown already, you can go back and look at again if you wish. Also, there'll be a transcript down at the bottom of that. Now, I speak a little East Texican because I'm from East Texas, and sometimes it has a hard time translating it. But if you are not a native English speaker, sometimes this may help you. So I think there's like 20 different languages. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to join in if you want, and then we'll get on with the slides. Hi, somebody's joined. Hey, welcome to the party.
That was easy.
Yes, I do have an easy button, and hopefully we'll get to hit that lots of times today. So alrighty, just a couple more seconds. Again, if you feel like you want to join the link as we go on, the link will be at the very, very top of the screen. So, okay, here we go. Let's get this going. You see the transcription at the bottom going on as well. So yes, my name is Harold Pulcher. I'm a senior consultant and a Microsoft MVP. Thanks to Improving, one, for giving me a job, and two, for having me this Friday to hopefully show you about this exciting bit of technology. We have some of the best trainers on the planet. And here are some upcoming development-centered trainings. However, we do lots of Agile and that kind of stuff as well. So just head over to improving.com/training. You can see all of our upcoming classes. We offer them all over the place. All of them are virtual or could be virtual. So it depends on the class. And I'll let those instructors figure that part out of that. We have open positions. We're always looking for awesome people. Always looking for awesome people. And this is some of the current top things we're looking for. And you can send me a resume, or you send it directly to the careers@improving.com, either one. In fact, it's better if you do it at the careers@improving.com. Cut out the middleman, which is me. If you think you're in there, this is one of the best companies. No, not one of the best companies, the best company I've ever worked for. We have a fantastic culture, and just a little bit more about Improving is that they'd like me to be 100% every day and be better the next day, and I'm surrounded with people that will help me be that. We have 14 offices spread out across North America. Some of our newest ones is iTexico down in Mexico, and up in Omaha, and OPI in Omaha. So we're expanding and welcome everybody to the team. It's been a wild ride so far. Hopefully it continues to be that way. All right. I know you're in a lunch and run right now. You're already here. So why am I advertising this? Well, we record these things. And then at some point in the future, somebody else may see this and they go, well, how can I get some more of these? Well, here's where you go to get some more of these, which is why I included this slide. All right. Let's get to now that was the improving promotion. Now I need to get to me and a little bit of self-promotion for me. If you're going to take a picture of anything, a screenshot or whatever have you, this is the thing to do it. This is the place to do it. One, it has my name on it. It has both my Twitch and my Twitter. They're both at Harold Pulcher. You have my YouTube, which I've got a little bit of YouTube stuff out there. And you have an email address where you can send me email directly. And the most important bit out of all of this, I'm feeling, is that link at the bottom, that bit.ly link at the bottom. This is a GitHub repo with the with everything in the talk, well, specifically the PowerPoint slide, because most of the stuff I'm doing here is file new project. But that's where the slides live right now, so you can jump ahead of me if you want. But I'll show this, show some more links at the back of the presentation, just like everything else goes on. So anyway, that's enough for my self-promotion. And so let's get into some other stuff. What's the agenda today? We're going to go a little, what is Blazor? We're going to tell you how to get started. We're going to go some of the new features. These are new features as of May. We'll probably get some new features as of the end of this, sometime in the month of November, because of the release schedule of things. What's next? And hopefully we have enough time to show you some fun stuff. I want to be respectful for your time, but I think it's really fun. I said, hey, man, that's pretty cool. Even though it's not all that business worthy, I think it's really cool that you can do that. So here we go. So what is Blazor? Well, if we go back in history, way back into the olden days, that's, I say, 2016, 2017. If you're doing interactive, awesome web experiences in the web, you were probably using one of these. One or two more so than the other, Angular, React, and Vue. And what all these have in common? Every one of them is JavaScript. As JavaScript is hanging out there and being the big gorilla in the room, somehow somebody got a wild thing going on and wanted to introduce this kid here named Webassembly. Yep, it's been around a while. It's there. He's kind of nudging himself into the world. So what exactly is Blazor? Blazor is an interactive web UI for .NET. That's as short and maybe I should just end the presentation right now because that's what it is. Done. Right? So a lot of people say it's a lot of other things, but it's not. It runs on top of a thing. So let's go talk about this. How do we get this in the world? And why should we care about this? One, you don't have, I need to be careful when I say this because people quote me on this crazy. It's all C#. You do not have to use JavaScript to get this stuff done. I'm not saying you won't use JavaScript. In fact, I've got a demo that shows me using JavaScript in order to make things happen. But you don't have to. So if you're comfortable in C# and comfortable doing all that stuff, this is a place you probably would like to play in. The tooling, the IDE. There's several different tools and several different weapons of choice to make this happen. The biggest one is Visual Studio. It's hands down the Cadillac of IDEs. There may be things you don't like about it and some of the things you really do like about it, but in whole, in the scope of IDEs, it's probably, if not the top, should be the top. I think it's top. You have a consistent ecosystem. If you Blazor and the WebAssembly and that kind of stuff doesn't care who your backend is, but if you happen to choose to use a Microsoft backend, you'll have I'm a full stack .NET developer. .NET? Maybe I made a new word. I don't know. But if you're doing this, you're going from one end to the other, right? If you're Microsoft all the way down, I'm going to use the word in air quotes should. Everything should just work. It doesn't always, but the chances of it working by staying in the .NET and the Microsoft ecosystem goes way up. And of course, stability. Microsoft gives 10 years of support after the end of the life of program. I mean, there's still people out there in VB6. You know, I know it's not supported, anymore, and it's been out of support for a long time, but it's still there, and I feel sorry for them. Hopefully they will get out of that one day. There we go.
That was easy.
Yeah. Okay, so how does .NET get in your browser? How do we use this thing in your browser? Well, we just don't come along. I say we. We just don't come along and drop .NET in the browser and be done with it and say call it done. What happens is you have the browser. Then you have this thing called Webassembly. And you may ask yourself, do I have to install Webassembly? No, you do not. It's been in your browser for a while now. We'll talk about where this actually runs in a couple of next slides. And then what Microsoft did, I heard this. I don't know this was true. They did a proof of concept to see if they could even start, and it took them a couple of days or something along those lines to get .NET compiled to run on top of WebAssembly. Now, of course, it was bulky and it was fat and it took too much space and it didn't run very well. But the proof of concept was whole. It would do that. And so on the top of that, they put Blazor. So you had some front-endy kind of stuff. But if Microsoft stopped right there, that would be one of the best things you could ever have to write console log messages. That's all it does. I'm like, what? That's no fun. User likes to click things. They don't want to use console logs, right? So what happens next is the .NET framework uses WebAssembly's ability to talk to the DOM. And what's going on up in that Blazor shaded area is there's a shadow DOM. And that shadow DOM, supposedly, I say supposedly, the idea is they match each other, mirror each other. And Blazor is able to write all it wants to the shadow DOM, and then there's a bit of magic that goes on between the shadow DOM and the real DOM using WebAssembly and the .NET framework in there to figure out what needs to change, and all that gets written down just to the DOM. So what happens is they see you make a page change. The only thing that actually changes on the page are the things that get changed. You don't get a complete refresh of the page. Cool, we call this Blazor WebAssembly. It's client side. Word runs totally in the browser. And where does it run? Where is it compatible? Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Chrome. Well, I just said Edge and I said Chrome again, and it's since Edge is now Chromium based, there's some redundancy going on there. Android, Safari, iOS, but not Microsoft Internet Explorer. I'm sorry, all you people that can't upgrade from Microsoft Internet Explorer, you can't use Blazor. Well, maybe you can. We'll talk about that next. So we got the client side, we have the server side. Now what happens in the server side? You have your servers. Your servers are running .NET. They're running Blazor, and it's everything that you normally could do in a .NET Core application. SQL Server, all the other, I say SQL Server, all the other stuff that you can access in that you get the full power of .NET running inside the server. And the browser, how we communicate to it is Signal R. So literally every click, every update, all those things that you might want to do to get updated to the DOM, that goes over Signal R back to Blazor. The changes are then committed or then presented back into the DOM through Signal R. Your screen gets updated. And you're like, why would I want to do that? That was actually done first, by the way, because that was easier for the Microsoft team to do. And why would you want to do that kind of thing? Well, let's talk about, first of all, one of the reasons is where Blazor server can run. It runs on everything. This is already in your browser. It even runs on the Microsoft Internet Explorer. So if you can do Signal R, I didn't do a complete list of this. If you can do Signal R, chances are you can run Blazor. So those people that are stuck in Microsoft Internet Explorer, which there could be lots of reasons to be, those folks now have a way forward. All right. So let's talk about a few things. So server side came out a while ago. Client side came out back in May. They've actually been working on client side and server side for a couple of years. It actually went to general release, general availability is what it's called, back in May. And why would you want to use one over the other? That's always a good question, right? Well, client side, offline PWAs. You need a great fully interactive experience going on without being connected to a back end, this is the way to go. You get almost a zero latency UI. I don't say zero latency. What I mean is there's no round trip to a server anywhere for you to be able to update your screen and do something. And with static file hosting, the deployment of this could be dead simple. I don't know if you're aware of a product out there called Azure Front Door. Azure Front Door is a service in Azure, obviously, that responds to HTTP events and requests. So if you go looking for whatever your domain name / into the Azure Front Door goes, well, I don't know nothing about that, but you told me that when somebody asks for anything here, I'm supposed to go down to this storage account and this blob in the storage account and pick this file up and serve it back. So that's all it is. So your deployment at that point becomes, let me drop a new thing on my file, on my storage account and my blob out there. Now I've just deployed my static file out there, and now Azure Front Door is just picking up and serving. It's pretty cool, actually. And then why would you want a server side? It's great for thin clients. You get the full runtime. You don't have it. In order to make client side Blazor happen, there's a bunch of the runtime that's been stripped out that you probably will never ever need, but it's still been stripped out. There may be edge cases where you might want that, and then that perfect case for server side Blazor, and all the code's on the server, every last bit of it. So if you have proprietary code that you don't want shipped all over the planet, this is the way to go, because it all remains on your server, and the only thing that goes out are updates to DOMs, updates to the DOM and bits where it has to go. Some bits have to go out to the end user somehow, right? Okay. Saying all that, I have a device here. What would you choose, client or server, for this? So let me go over what this device does, and then you get to make a decision. And I'll go over. I can see it going both ways, so to speak. But what this device is a handheld scanner. That imagine you're in a grocery store and you're walking around. You pick this up when you put in the grocery store. You go in, you scan all your items, and at the end of it, you either just hit the pay button and swipe your credit card, or maybe you put it in a scanner at the end and drop it off at the front door. It says you owed $57.27, whatever, and you pay for it and you go in and you leave it at the door. All right. This also is a kind of scanner that could be used in a warehouse. It's massively, you could use a warehouse that's 3 or 4 acres big. Anyway. So in one situation, I want to have a really fast UI. I want to have a really fast responsive UI, right? So maybe this device has enough memory to hold all the products in my grocery store, and has all the listing, and has enough memory so it can do the calculations it needs to do to add up totals and then talk to the credit card processor and all that kind of stuff. Maybe it does. And if you do, that gives you a really quick, really responsive UI on the device. But what if I'm in that warehouse situation where I've got a picker and I'm going around picking things off of shelves and things, and now unfortunately these things, even though they've been ruggedized, most of them will not survive being run over by a forklift. And I don't know, I've never really worked in a warehouse very much, but I imagine that if I was working in a warehouse, one of these things wouldn't survive long for me, because my phone wants to commit suicide all the time. So in that case, I may want to do a thin client here, so that all of the stuff, all the things I've picked, all the information I have is updated real time on the server, so that everybody else monitoring this can see this. Whereas on the client side, it may get updated all the time, but it's not guaranteed to be updated all the time, right? Because of the nature of the thing. Even though I know probably somebody's watching me out there and go, well, that server side thing ain't guaranteed either. I know it's not, but let's just pretend that it is for the moment, right? So at that case, I run over my device with a forklift, and I had half an order picked. I just go pick up another device. I log in as me. This is my order. I've got it right there because it's on the server. It's never really on the machine. And it could be the machine that I'm holding here is such a lightweight thing, it can't even do all the stuff I need to do anyway. So the server can handle all that. So which would you choose? I don't know. It's up to you. Depends on the situation. But there's a couple of scenarios. All right. How do I get started with all this mess, right? How do I get started with all this mess? Hey, you pick your tool of choice. Visual Studio 2019, which I've already mentioned. I'm using Community Edition today, by the way. Visual Studio Code, or Visual Studio for the Mac, and the latest preview. And I have that on my box here, and I'm kind of using it in one of my examples, just simply because of other things that I'm doing. But I wanted to mention it here because that's what I'm using on my demos. You need to install the .NET Core 3.1 SDK. That gets you templates and all the other kind of things, all other kind of fun things for Blazor. And that you got a link there with the .NET Get Core 3. And I included the .NET 5 RC2. You notice I put these in parentheses, in italics, because I kind of wanted to call them out just a little bit. Both of those, I believe, are supposed to be released in this month. I don't know. That's what they've said publicly. So I don't really know a good release date. They never really give even us MVPs release dates. They give us thoughts of what they might release. So those are things you can go pick up right now. In fact, I'm using RC5 on my Visual Studio 2019. All right, so either one of them, if you're used to .NET stuff, once you install those couple of things, for WebAssembly, there's your commands. For server, there's your commands. You can see that they're really, really difficult to do, right? So let's see that happen. All right. So
hey, Harold.
Yes, sir.
While you're doing that, I just wanted to remind everybody that you can post your questions in the chat there, but we have one that's here. Maybe you can kind of go back over. I think you mentioned it before. Do you have to use Blazor to do WebAssembly stuff?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Blazor is Microsoft's in implementation of how to get the UI stuff working on top of WebAssembly. Java has it. I think Rust has an implementation. I think Ruby may as well have an implementation. There's a lot of things that will run on top of WebAssembly. In fact, I know for sure that Ruby's doing it because I got a friend Amir, he's a friend of a lot of improvers. Has done a few things with some high schoolers to get them to do some Ruby implementations of some of the things he's been doing on the work on. So no, this is just Microsoft's version of this. You do not have to use Microsoft's version to do this. You know, I'm a Microsoft MVP, so I'm going to say yes, use the Microsoft version, but you simply don't have to do that. Okay, so let's create a new application. So you can see where I am right now. I'm in my I'm a little bit too deep. Yeah. Oh, that Blazor WASM is something I created already just to make sure things will work. So we're going to create a new one, .NET, new Blazor. In fact, I'm not going to even type it all. I'm just going to say, hey, let's go rerun this thing, and we're going to do that number. All right, .NET new, Blazor WASM is a template we're going to use, and my output's going to be that. So I hit that, I tell it to go, and see, I got a new thing.
That was easy.
See, there you go, right? And now I can CD into that and run it. So while that's coming up, I am going to go here. So I ran that through the command line just because I wasn't going to do any debugging things. So, but I want to show you up what you get with a file new project. And of course, it never remembers it's supposed to. And we've got the Blazor playground. Again, this is my repo laying out already, so I'm kind of eating my own dog food when it comes to this. I've done this several times, so you'll see a few talks out there. The one we care about today is this one. And now we just have the Blazor WASM 1. I've just fired up, just made. It's on the way up. As that's loading up, we are now running right there. And when it'll take that a second to come up. And let's see what you get when I'm running this. In fact, I've already have it up there, but that's not going to work because that was left over from my testing. It looks familiar, right? So here's what you get in the file new project. You get you a little bit of a side nav. So that's a component, by the way. And very, very much, if you've done a lot of Angular and React, you'll see a lot of similarities here. You got a home. This blanked out grade thing here is a component. We'll look at how that component gets its information here in a second. We have a counter, so we can be all interactive. And if you want me to go over and do an F12 and show you I'm not bouncing back and forth, I'm all local, that's fine. I can do that, but I'm just trying to be concerned. There's a lot of information. I get really excited. I like to talk a lot about it, and I'm just trying to make sure I get the key points in so that we can go back and go see these things. So I'm happy to go show anybody that if they want to show it. And this is us going fetching some data. So this is the file new, so you get to see it all. And here's what it looks like in the world. So let me make sure I'm not covering anything up with my big head. All right, right there, right. So I'm going to go from the bottom up on this because it seems to play well. I've got a program.cs, which is pretty much every .NET Core thing going on. We have a main. We add in our app. Okay, for our root component. We have a service out there, an HTTP client service that will reply to stuff, and we run an async. Nothing special here, nothing special at all. And our app Blazor, this is where our routing starts coming in. And just so you can see some features here, they've already set up the not found thing. So if I wanted to go in here and do this, see where it says fetch data, and I go to the Herald is cool page, it says no, nothing there, which, you know, I kind of expected that, so that's all right. So how this works is we've got some Blazor tags that we've got going on. We've got a routed view. If we have a route, if we have a page, how does it get to that page? How do we know those routes exist? I'll show you in a moment. We give it a default layout. So what you're able to do is you can change the layout per page if you want, that sort of thing. If it's not found, just like we just did there, see that? Sorry, nothing at this address. Sorry, nothing at this address. We get our same layout, but this is a layout view, which is another tag. So it's giving me a view directly. It's not having to route to a view to go get stuff. And the next thing that gets you going in Razor and the Blazor, you know, we use a lot of usings in the world of .NET. In this case, this is the two usings that got added for our project. This JSON interop is pretty important, by the way, and it's really cool. Hopefully my demo works. I've been having a little difficulty with making some of that stuff happen. I'm just not preloading it. Hopefully we have success. I don't know if I've appeased the demo gods enough today. And then what all this really does is for every one of my views, instead of having to put one of these usings in every view, this gives me a global import. So every one of my views has this. And we're like, okay, cool. So let's go what we're sharing here. We've got this WASM being shared. We're going to start down here with this prompt, this survey prompt. The thing is right here. That is a component. You'll notice a few things about that component. There is no usings. We're using this @title bit right here, and that's strikingly familiar, right? @title, because title, @title. Wow. Okay, cool. There's a couple of things going on with that. Not only is this a variable that I've defined in my code, it's also a parameter because I've marked it. So it knows that I can intake that in. So I can change that parameter as I go. And so I can make a reusable component. Let's see what else. In fact, look, you know, it tells you right there in the comment when you do a file new project, this is what this is for. Please use this. I will tell you there's one caveat here. Fields are slightly different. This is a property. This get property right there is yours, is all of yours. It's yours that you can do anything you want to as long as you're doing a get. Like Ford says, you can have your Model T in any color you want to as long as it's black. This is pretty much it. You can do anything you want to this as long as all you do is a get, right? The set here is needed by the framework, very much similar to Angular, React, and a few others that you want to set that not by using the set parameter, but by doing something, not by using the set method on that property. You want to do it something else because the framework needs it. And this is how this is one of the ways that the shadow DOM and the DOM keeps synced up. Now, if you want to use that, you can. Know that you may cause yourself some heartache if you do that. Okay, so if you'll notice this, then we're going to bounce a little bit up into our pages for index. You can see how we call it. Survey prompts are component. That's where it finds it, because we've got a using, so we inherited that through our imports razor, and then I've specified a title, specified what I want it to call, and back in the component, we just use it, right? It just gets set right there. There's also another parameter called a cascading parameter, where you can say not only is this component needed, but the components that this component or subcomponents or children of this component may need this too, and I'll have access to it as well. So a direct child of this will also have access to a cascading parameter as you go down to it. All right, let's look at the nav menu right fast. Nothing so fancy here. It's basically a bunch of more URLs that are going on with buttons. You got a nav link there that's kind of I'm not sure where the nav link comes from. I think it's out of the standard routing. Look at that. It tells me it's ASP.NET Core. Nothing fancy going on here. It's just you're able to now to do this all local to the browser. Toggle nav menu, and then of course our main layout. The thing to worry about the main layout on this is this thing here, the at body. That's where we emit things, right? Very much similar to Angular and React as well. And I'm not so familiar with Vue, so I can't really talk to that so much. But this is where things emit. Now you don't have to emit to an at body. You can have your views emit to something else, like at other thing. But the layout needs to support that. But the at body is one of the default things that it wants to spit out to. And speaking of spitting things out, we're back to the index page again. And how do I know it's an index page? Well, one, it says it is, and two, my page directive at the very, very top says I am at page and a slash. Cool. And so we already looked at it before. So let's go to the counter again. Let's see how the counter does what it does. So you got the counter, you got the button with the on click that says call this increment counter. It increments the counter. And so you may ask yourself, how is that number getting updated? Well, goes back to how Blazor's watching these things. These things end up being kind of observable on the back side of it. So if I update this field, which gives me the set, you know what I said, difference between properties and fields were a little different. This is one of the differences. I can update a field, and that field triggers a whole bunch of refreshes, and the only thing that's going to change on the whole page would be that number as we do, and that's what we've seen over here when we go into the counter. Right, that's the only thing that's been changed. And you're like, well, doesn't JavaScript do that? Yeah, it does, but these are base level kinds of things that all web frameworks need to do, right? The other thing that's cool here is you see how the page and we have a counter. Let's see if I want to do one of these. If I wanted to start a counter somewhere, I've got a couple of options. I've got a counter. Get that out of the way. All right. Now what I've done is I'm not going to stop everything and rerun it, but that's what would happen if you got a counter and I want to start at a certain counter, and because I've told it's an integer, and then when I come down here I can do one of these things. Like there's on a net that I don't have a net, but when you initialize it, you can set that start count at the initialize and where you go. The other way to do it is to turn that into a parameter. All right, and then I can do something like this, where I can say current count. That sort of stuff. So it sets that stuff as it go forward. Yeah, I've got a red squiggly just because I'm just doing this for demo purposes, right? So, all right, let's go to the next one. In the fetch data, how do I go get data? How do I get data into the thing, right? This is our weather forecast, and we're just making up a bunch of noise here. So, and you didn't see this loading page here just because things happen so fast. It's local to my box. It's local to my box. But if it's null, again, with the counter and the fetch and the update, that sort of stuff, where it's repopulating the page, regenerating the page. Same sort of thing happens here. We all start off null, null, and if we got something, we'll actually do a page and we'll do an app for each on that. You know, Angular and React both, and I know the Vue does have some kind of construct for doing a for each over a variable, right? So here are these variables. Again, we have a weather forecast, which we've got that defined right here, public class. Now, I will tell you also, I forgot to mention before, this @code block is all C#. It does not have to be in this file. Back in the old days, we called this like code behind or some other thing, right? It does not have to be in this file. It can be in other places, but currently it feels good to put the code that's going to work on the HTML that I'm spitting out in the same file. It just feels good to me to do that. On initialize, this is in my counter example. This is what I need to put in there, because when it comes up, I can initialize some stuff. And so to see the forecast there, at no point do I actually say go update the screen. I just set forecast to something, and then that screen updating happens all by itself. In this case, we're going to use our injected HTTP client and go get us some sample weather data it's just currently in the template. And that's how that goes across there. Cool, and that gets you all these wonderful things. Right, and of course you come up with it even comes with about that takes you away from your website, so now you're blowing out your SEO. But anyway, there you go. They're trying to push Blazor on that. That's the Blazor starting site, right? So that is the file new project. I am going to now come over here, get rid of some junk, and start. Yeah, don't save that. Go away. I'm going to start the next demo as we go talk about some other things. And if everything works the way it's supposed to work when we come back, things will be working. So really? All right. We'll let you get satisfied there. And go back into here. Hello, computer. Great. Okay. Max smiled, so I know that I'm not frozen up. So it seems I needed to restart my session because we lost it. So if you'll look at the very top link up here, there's a new version of that link at the top of it. So let's go on about it. Let me check my time here. All right, we're getting everybody's time because I know everybody's busy. So here's some features of a Blazor that you get right out of the box. One is authorization. Any OIDC compliant authentication server out there will work for this. This is the Microsoft Identity. This is Azure B2C. This is GitHub, Google, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. Any of those things you can use for authorization. It's built in to the boxes. It comes with ASP.NET Core stuff. You put an ASP.NET Core. You put an authorize tag on the top of it, set it up, and where it goes. Code sharing. You just saw some of that code sharing. Hopefully I'll show you some more here in a moment because the Blazor app doesn't care where it runs. It can run on the server, it can run on the client. So when you have a hybrid app, which the demo will be showing, and you want to share objects between those, a shared project, very much like the clean architecture or the onion architecture, or sometimes called ports. It gives you a shared project where all your objects live. So when I put a required on my shared object, I get a required both in my server and my client. Because you're like, well, I don't need to check it on my client because my server's checking it. And that's all well and good. But then your interactive experience goes away. And if you just check it on the client, If I just check it on the client and don't check it on the server, well, now I've made an attack point where things could blow up, right? So that code sharing gets you that validation on both sides of that equation. And then JavaScript interop and debugging. I did not say before you did not. In fact, I went out of my way not to say you don't need JavaScript anymore. Well, that's a bunch of baloney. Why would you want to throw away that huge ecosystem of things that are using? You don't want to do that, but you still need to interact with it. And this is my next demo here to show you that some of that interaction, and then debugging, especially. I want to be able to debug all of this stuff as I go forward. So let's see if I'm come up to where I need to come up.
Hey, Harold, while you're doing that, we had a question that came in that just said, how easy is it to switch between the client and server-side frameworks?
Easy enough to be wherever you want to run it. Literally the same code would run on either side. Literally. In fact, this application here that you're seeing that I brought up,
yep,
that now died. Oh, I know why it died. Huh. Come on, go away. You know, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of differences, right? But as far as like for instance, in the full stack, when you're running on the server, you get the full stack of .NET. On the Webassembly, when you're running in the browser, you won't get all of that. So you may code something on the server you can't run on the client, but if you can code something on the client, guaranteed you can run it on the server. I'm going to fire this up again, and hopefully it doesn't blow up because I managed to kill the points there. And we're going to give that about 10 seconds, then we're going to go back to the thing, and I'll show this demo later because sometimes it takes a little while to come up. At least on my machine, I had some demo demons happen to me. So let's go back and let's see some of this. Okay. Now JavaScript interop, debugging. These are the two things I actually want to do the demo to show you. One, how you could interact with JavaScript directly from Blazor, and also in the debugging, how I'm able to debug in the client and the server literally at the same time and jump between them. And if we're going to go to the next screen, and we'll jump back and see if the demo is up and going. Okay, the next screen is internationalization. I used to call this localization, but of course we got better new words on it, and progressive web apps. These are baked in, and in the internationalization world, using the ASP.NET Core localization type features, you're able to then, you start off with English, but if you code up to say localize this, localize these words, if you don't have anything configured to say like I want to translate something to Spanish, you get back whatever you put in there. So you don't get an error. You get back what you want to put in there. And then when you do make the Spanish download, that'll work, and that will just switch over all your words that are going. But it takes and also the application will download the needed resources to make that happen. The other thing is progressive web apps. You can turn this thing in, and I had to get a Windows Phone in there somehow just because I love my Windows Phone, even though they don't exist anymore. I get that. These things are meant to run connected with the Blazor WebAssembly, connected, unconnected, and can be fairly easily set up to cache things using. There's something, I don't know if you know or not, but in your web browser, you have this index that's basically in every web browser. There's a little bit of a database in there that you can use to store things, hold on to things for a while before you send them back, and you're able to take advantage of this through WebAssembly and talk to it all. So let's see if it came up. No, it did not. One more try. Let that. go. It says it's supposed to be going there. We're going to stop this. Let it think it going. Okay, now I'm going to stop it. And then we're going to go to localhost again. And we'll see if it comes up. You know, this is working great. It worked great yesterday. It worked great last night. It worked great at 8 o'clock this morning. But not so much right before the plan.
Hey, Harold, while that's coming through, we had another question came in. It said, you talked about choosing server side or client side. Is there a hybrid mode where it behaves client side for the most part, but if the user refreshes the page, is there place within the app not lost?
Here, well, let me show you, as this thing is trying to come up, I can show you this car checker app, which I've got links to where you can go run yourself. I'll clean it up. So this is basically one of those hybrid things you're just talking about. Server side and client side are basically in the same part. And as far as doing a full refresh and go getting it from it, yeah, that's implemented. I don't have a good way to point it to you in the demonstrations that I have right now. But same sort of thing here, that you're used to hitting a refresh button to refresh the whole page. That is perfectly a legitimate hit, right? And if you're running all client side, you're going to get a redo of whatever your client is. If you're running just a server side, complete only server side, you're reading, you'll get all the DOM refreshed on you. And oh, did it come up? Yes. Okay, we have demo. Maybe. I don't know why it's taking so long. Maybe, I don't know. So just to demonstrate, I can manage my account here. And I want to demonstrate the debugging a lot. Really? Today? I'm going to just.
That was easy.
That's a sarcastic. That was easy, by the way. Okay, we're going to let that run as I go through and kind of show a couple of things. For instance, where's a good thing to show that off? So this is some of the sharing I was talking about. Got a vehicle. See, I'm in car checker shared. I've got a key. I got a required. That required's on both sides of the house. Even a range validator in there. Again, more with the shared. String length required. Had a bunch of key points here I wanted to show to folks. This is me firing up a JavaScript interop. Really? Yeah. It was such a cool demo too. Well, all right, we'll get better. Let me show what else I want to show here. There's some of the fetch changes that are going on. And this is what I was talking about with that database. You take it a bite at a time. It's pretty heady, actually. But you got an index DB on all of the browsers. And this application shows you a way to use that index DB as a local database to store what you need to store, and then make sure that you can get it back up to the outside world. And this is us doing this JS invoke JavaScript interrupt. So I am talking to 3D.js on this. Oh man, really? It's not wanting to talk to everything I want to talk to. Let's go back. Maybe I can show you some JavaScript without being logged in. So this is what I was trying to show you with the JavaScript interop. This whole thing over here is JavaScript. This is not Blazor. This is using a standard JavaScript 3D library. You're able to do various things, like, for instance, that, add a note. This party happened here. All right, now I've made me a note. I'm going to save it off. And what you'll see is this updating here will eventually say not synced because I'm not logged in correctly. That's one of the things that's not firing up the way it should be firing up. Yeah, see, unsent edits, and you're able to control that and do a retry on it. Cool, right? At least I think it's cool anyway. All right, now we're going to resume the session again. And then we got progressive web apps. We are getting near the end of all this. So let's talk about, we talked about all the stuff above the line, right? Here's some stuff below the line. And these are really cool things, both of these. One is this Blazor Electron. Now, do you know what else runs in Electron? Visual Studio Code. So imagine running all your Blazor stuff on top of the Electron shell that you install on your lap, on your desktop. Pretty cool stuff. Web window, a very lightweight thing that both of these may not go anywhere. There are some experiments, so to speak, using this. The other thing is Blazor does not have to emit HTML. Blazor can emit anything that you want it to, and one of the things they have it doing right now is mobile and doing Xamarin. So if you want to write a Xamarin app, in fact, there's a whole, they've updated this a lot since I wrote this slide, and since May. There's lots of things out on channel 9 in the YouTube channel for Microsoft. It's showing how to do these various things. And I have no doubt I have people in the audience that are looking at and are like, oh yeah, that's we've been doing this stuff better and things and that kind of stuff, and that's fine. And I have no doubt there's folks out there doing it, especially my friend Sean Sparkman and a few other folks that are big Xamarin heads, that they're playing around with this, and they have various, they have a lot of opinions about this. So I'm just saying it's out there. Go play with it. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? All right. So what's up next? Blazor is going to be in .NET 5. It just is. .NET 5 is coming sometime this month, purportedly. We don't know for sure, but it's been reported to come this month. They're going to have component API enhancements. They're going to be type constraints and required parameters. So that the parameter, whether you saw me in the component where it's just title, if that title is not there, it comes in as blank, and I've got to deal with that somehow. They're going to add some things where to make that parameter a required parameter inside your components. We're going to talk SVG because a lot of graphics love some SVG stuff going on there. The other thing is Microsoft is actively in the WebAssembly specific space there, and so they contribute to that open source project all the time. And the top two things on that are multi-threaded runtimes and lazy loading. So that's kind of what's next. So here's my ask. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Somehow I hit the button too much. I forgot all about this. It skipped over the page. This is the Blazor Workshop I've been talking about. It takes you from the left to the right. Now, you don't have to go take pictures of pizzas and things like that. You don't have to do that. Those assets are provided for you. But there's the GitHub link. It's also, if you just look up Blazor Workshop, you can find it too. But there's the GitHub link. It's an important link to go get. This thing will take you between 6 to 8 hours to do. Although I've had people do it in 2.5, 3 hours. I'm just slow. I don't know, you're probably faster than I am, so you do it fast. But it takes you from literally where it says Blazing Pizza Go to being able to order, pop up dialogues, log in. And in fact, these folks in this workshop give you a way to do the login, but want you to go decide which login you want to work, the Twitter, the GitHubs, or whichever OIDC compliant thing you want to use. And see that big black thing on the side over here, this thing right here? That is Google Maps, JavaScript, and it's once you order a pizza, it will show you your pizza being delivered over the map and show you how all the Java interop works. It's a fantastic workshop, and I don't know how I got that skipped over, but we did. It's a fantastic workshop. Please go do that workshop. In fact, as I go through all these things once more, my ask, go over to blazor.net and give it a go. Go check out the Blazor car checker, and I will apologize that my demo did not work as well as I wanted it to. Do the workshop, spend a day, figure it out, see if you like it. Send me some feedback, and follow me on Twitch and Twitter at Harold Pulcher. I'm at Harold Pulcher on both of those things. And I've got the links of Doom. I got the links of Doom going on here, and I'll put this page back up in just a moment. But there's a couple other fun things that I want to show, and these are links in it. And we are there. Yeah, we're back to could not sync it up. That's fine. All right. And a couple of links here. One of my favorite things as I was growing up. These are totally in C#, totally in Blazor, and running in the browser. And yeah, it's asteroids. I will tell you, the little ship that comes out here is hyper deadly. You know, it's not even the so you get all that working on you, right? And also the other thing, just because I've got some nostalgia, again, this is all Blazor as well. And it's somebody went out to the time. Yeah, I died real easy, but I'm going to put those links back up so you can get to them. And the bottom two links are those asteroids and the Pac-Man. But that's just an example of what you can do and how interactive you can be running inside your browser and still have back-end stuff to go get things and refresh those things. Yes, it was a game and that kind of thing, but the idea is still the same. If you're going to be responsive to the front end like that and still go get stuff at the back, I think that's a pretty big deal. So that's about all I have. And yeah.
Awesome. Harold, thank you. So we kind of got one, if you just want to give us we had one question coming in that's, you know, how widely adopted is this getting in the community?
I think we're still on the getting the word out phase, simply because Blazor server got released about a year ago, and that's kind of exciting. But the real exciting stuff is the Blazor in the browser. The WebAssembly, Blazor WebAssembly, and that was released in May of this year. So it's still got a little ways to go. They do have some problems, like if you want to do deep linking, where you're doing a URL pound, you know, something pound and something, so you're deep linking into a page. They don't have a good answer for that right now, and they're trying to get a good answer for that. But a lot of pages don't do that anymore because they're like, well, that's a bad thing to do. Don't do that. And some people like depend on that. So it depends on your situation, right? But it's there. I'm a bit excited about it, and I will tell you a couple of things of why I got excited about it. Due to my Improving is an awesome company. I've been on several teams, and none of which have done Angular or React or any modern, what you want to call JavaScript framework, right? And and I thought to myself, I'm probably going to have to do that, but there's no way I'm going to compete with people that have been doing this 3 or 4 years in the Angular world. There's no way I'm going to compete with the React people. If I get a client, I need to learn that, and I have since needed to learn things about React and Angular because of the client request. But what am I going to get jazzed about going forward? And I saw this WebAssembly come out about a year ago, and I got really jazzed about it. And I wanted to go play, and I figured I could jump into the deep end of this pool. And the other question that usually comes up is, well, isn't this just like Silverlight? And I know I just hurt some people by saying that. And actually, it may seem that way, but it's not. Ways to do these sorts of things that Silverlight did and Active Server Pages and other things did, but in a very secure sandbox way, so you can feel good about doing this kind of code in the browser. And when I say feel good, in the security sense, right? To feel good about all that stuff. So that's kind of where that plays in.
Awesome. Well, Harold, thank you for sharing, and we want to thank all of you guys for attending today's Lunch and Learn. You'll be able to access this recording next week on our virtual events page at improving.com/virtual-events. Also, please join us next week with Stanford professor and improver Abe Argwal. He's presenting Lingua Franca, an agile methodology for the AI age. I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.